You are listening to ViewSource, conversations around WordPress and adjacent tech with hosts Ruba Ahmed and me, Brian Cords. Ruba, are you fully updated to WordPress 6.4 as of the time of this recording?
Yes, I quite literally just allowed the final update like on my own personal website right before this recording.
Are
I
you a,
am. Are
are you like a
you?
fast updater, or do you like to give it a couple days?
I do update very quickly. In this case, I just got delayed by a lot of like things happening in my work life, or else I would have already done it. Most of my other sites that are already on automatic updates are already all updated. My personal site isn't on auto updates because there's a couple of things on there that I like to double check before I let it update. But yeah, usually I know there's always like some sort of fallout sometimes, always, but I just like to update immediately and be part of the testing of that too. So it doesn't really bother me.
Yeah, I don't ever feel bad on my personal site if it goes down. No one's checking it. It's okay. I'll update. I love running the latest update. I don't even care.
Yeah,
But
me
yeah,
too.
for client sites, I think within a week, within like a 2 days, like if there's any major issues, you find out quick, and a day at the
Yeah,
most, I think is fine.
yeah, that's fair. Um, I think yeah, with client sites, I'm a little more careful. I think I typically like to wait like a full week for
Yeah.
client sites, especially the more complex ones that might have a
Well,
lot of plugin interactions too, right? So, but not more than that because I don't really like to run anything outdated for anyone.
yeah, I also think like if you're worried about updating and you are at that level of a website, then you might want to be a website who also tests beforehand or tests on a separate
Yes.
branch. Like if you're even concerned that, oh, if my website goes down, I start losing a lot of money, you're probably in the you should be testing on a staging site category of
Yeah.
WordPress websites.
Definitely, yeah. And WordPress updates and something should be a lot, you should be a lot more cognizant of them just in general if it is that core to your business, right?
Yeah. And speaking of awareness to updates, WordPress 6.4, what do you think? What's your like big picture view of it?
You know what? I really, really enjoy this release. I think that it's amazing that it's not just full of 7,000 million shiny new things, that it's more about making things stronger, but also innovating in really helpful and interesting ways, some of which we're going to talk about today. And it's also, the second underrepresented release. So that's really cool too. But I'm a big fan of this release, like a really big fan of this release.
I feel like it's getting like it just has like a warm fuzzy feeling around it this time.
Mm,
Everybody seems to be very like happy with it. I think we both
yeah.
came with like our favorites that we're going to talk about. But yeah, I kind of agree. Like there is no big splashy feature, but features that were big and splashy, like the command palette, have gotten like just nice incremental improvements, and like the list
Yes.
view and the performance stuff. I think like there's so much performance stuff server
A
side and like kind of
lot.
client side. It's pretty crazy. It
And there's
just
some
feels like a
really
good.
accessibility tweaks that have
Mhm.
happened that are really like you can see them and they've been a long time coming and they just make me so happy.
Yeah, because there's gonna be. I mean, I think the next big feature. I was just looking on the developer blog write up where they were showing all the tickets about like the admin interface becoming
Mhm.
like Gutenbergified, and they were showing that they're working through, when you look at a list of your posts, what does that screen look like, or a list of your pages, and you can see they're working on it, the progress. And I think that's going to be like the next big exciting thing. And it's nice to not have something like that right now, and to just be like,
Yeah.
oh, you just like made the things that are here feel a lot better.
Yeah, and the whole fonts thing, the fonts manager was supposed to be part of this release. So I think that was like you and I have talked about
Yeah.
that before where that was supposed to be like that big shiny feature. But honestly, it's okay that it's not part of this feature, this release. Like I think this is already a fantastic release. I am yeah, like not everything has to be shiny in order to be pretty amazing.
I think I want to start with my pick for like my favorite thing, because I do think it is
Yes.
a shiny big thing, and I think it's gotten a lot of positive feedback and stuff. And I'm picking for my favorite
Yeah.
thing. definitely the new 2024 theme, core theme in WordPress. I mean, I think it's just killer. I'm gonna screen share it, and I think we should talk about it.
Yeah. And while you're getting the screen share set up, honestly, like it is shiny, but it's the kind of shiny that I would love to see more of, you know? It's taking what's possible and innovating on it in a way that shows the rest of the WordPress world what we can do. And you know, it's the first more interesting theme to come for as a default theme in a long while. I mean, we've had favorites, you know, there was the bird theme and that was kind of cool, but 2024, there's just something about it, you know? There's just something about it.
There, yeah, I think so. I pulled up my screen, and as you can see, I'm on 2023's demo site uh, first, which was like the core, and it's just the experience of when you install WordPress, and like this is actually even better than what you actually get when you install WordPress because this shows some posts. Normally, it's that weird neon green button and like this,
Yes.
and just some blank text. It's like the most brutalist theme that WordPress has ever had. So I think that's
Yeah.
part of the context shift is like this last year's core theme was just really bare bones and like really just kind of
Yeah.
painful to look at. And then we'll
And it
switch
got a
over our
lot of
tab.
criticism.
Yeah. And, you know, I think it made a good stance as like, we're giving you a blank slate and you could use it as a good starter theme if you wanted to, because it literally was just a blank slate with a bunch of style variations. But I don't know. That's not super helpful for a core theme and for your first impression of
Yes,
installing WordPress if you're not a technical person versus
definitely.
2024.
Yeah, so we're looking at 2024 on your screen now.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, walk us through it.
So this is like the demo site. It has a little bit more content, but I would say the kind of things I'll tell you my favorite things. Number one is I love a good serif font. I love how classy that looks. I think
Yes.
it's and like it's hard to pick a good one. I think I actually really like what they have here and like the font combinations. So I think that's a big part of it. But I think the other piece is that it came with patterns and it also is it's almost a little more opinionated where it's not like an empty blog. It's really meant for like somebody who wants to make like a portfolio or a small business website or a newsletter or something where that's like you want a little bit more than just like an empty loop of blogs. And I think that's a
Yes.
fundamental shift to say like we're going to more aggressively make you a website versus a blog if you start with our default theme.
Yeah, and I mean those are the personas they were working with, right? There was the entrepreneur's persona, the photographer persona, the blogger, and maybe one more I don't
I feel like it was
100%
those
remember right
three.
now. Yeah. So everything was designed with those kind of personas in mind, and I think those are really great personas to focus on because those are the kind of people who are using WordPress and they make up a large part of the user base and a large part of the kinds of people that agencies are creating WordPress websites for, right? So I think that that paradigm shift is, I hope that it continues and it's not a one off.
Yeah, and I think I I guess I like to think of WordPress core themes as more for the DIY crowd, like, somebody who's going to spin up a new WordPress. And it just seems like I think we all want WordPress to be the default when somebody says like I'm going to start a Substack or I'm going to start a blog or I'm going to start like these things like you want them to be like no start with WordPress because like WordPress is great for publishing content online and don't go into these like closed garden proprietary systems like be open source. So the
Mm-hmm.
fact that like you can actually start with a theme and I'm like slowly just scrolling down because I just wanted to see if there was anything else on this page, but the theme
Yeah,
that comes with like a lot of opinionated patterns, a lot of like default types of pages that are geared to specific audiences and not just like a blank slate. I don't know. It just feels a little bit more thoughtful.
definitely. It's definitely a lot more thoughtful. And I think that's a testament to the kinds of people that were involved in the creation of this theme, you know, Jessica, Rich, um, all these other fantastic people who, you know, I don't remember the names of, but have been involved. These are all really thoughtful people who think about the intersection of design and technology all the time. And when you get people like that and you put them together, turns out you get something pretty awesome out of it.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to highlight on here. I think the fact that it comes with a bunch of patterns, I think that's great. I
Yeah.
personally like, I'm not a huge fan of the like open pattern library that exists in WordPress. So to be able
Same.
to say like, here's some curated patterns, here's some curated default like templates and things like that. I actually didn't know it had style variations. Did
Yeah, it does.
Oh wow.
A few of them, yeah. And they're really nice, really clean, and I personally enjoy all of them. Whereas some of the style variations we've seen with past themes come through are so funky that I could not imagine anyone using them except for like a kid who's experimenting with their first block, you know? So these
Yeah.
feel clean and professional and usable and, well, thoughtful, honestly. It is, I think that is a really good word for this release, for this theme. It's a very thoughtful theme. And
Yeah, I
I
mean
am all about
even
the word thoughtful, so I enjoy that.
yeah. Even just like the basic landing like homepage has like a call to action, a big button, a big picture, those like three columns with like an icon and some text under it. Like these are patterns that like
Classic.
they're yeah, this is what a website looks like. Like this is what people expect when they open a website. It's pretty normal
Yeah.
stuff. The fact that they actually include all of this, and the style variations, yeah, they have like a dark mode. They have like some kind of off colors like a light green and a light blue and that kind of stuff. Yeah, those are really nice.
Yeah. Like I think that it hits that really great balance of being widely applicable and also trendy. Just enough trendiness to feel current, you know? Without being so trendy that it might look really dated really quickly. So,
Yeah, which is I think how the core press themes normally should be, which is like just a
yes.
tiny bit of an opinion, but also like it shouldn't look weird when you load them up.
Yeah.
So yeah, well done, theme team. I think
Yes.
standout
We
feature.
love it.
That's kind of my pick. What about you?
100%.
What's your like big feature you want to talk about?
So I'm not gonna lie, I knew almost right away when we talked about this that this would be what you picked. So I knew not to pick
Not to pick
this.
it.
So what I really like is a really small feature that I think everyone has wanted and thought of at some point while working in the block editor. When you start getting really complex in the block editor, you find yourself making a lot of groups. And so you open the list view to be able to navigate all these groups and be able to navigate through all the different blocks you have. And it's just, group, 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 group. Oh, look, more group, 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 group. And now we have the ability to rename those groups. So do you want to pop into the editor for a second?
Yeah, so I made a new post on literally we're just in my live like my live WordPress site. So I
Brian's
I
live
think
experimental ground.
I honestly like I find it fun to mess around with a live site because it adds a little pressure to you. Like you're like, oh, I don't want to screw this up. And like even though there's no pressure, I am gonna apologize. Like I just these little I'm ready for these little meta boxes along the bottom of the screen, the like Yoast
To
SEO
go
and stuff.
away.
Like they need to go. We need to be done with these. Like please get rid of these little
Yeah.
drawers down here.
Yes.
We solve that problem. Okay. So I made a couple groups so that we would have something to mess around with here.
Yeah. So okay. So you have, it says Brian all about me, and then it has a social icon, and then the Aruba all about you social icon, and each of these is a row which we can see that's open in the list view. So now what you can do is you can click on one of these rows. So a row is also a group, and a group is
Yeah.
also a group, and then you can click on the kebab icon, the three dots, and then you can
Mm-hmm.
choose rename, and you can name it and
Mm.
give it a contextual name for whatever you put in here. And this makes coming back and editing and being
Mm.
in the zone with more complex documents so good. And the ability to rename headings and other blocks is also coming in the next release. So this is
Okay.
just the beginning. And so eventually we're going to be able to rename pretty much anything we want. And I love that because this is a productivity
Mm.
improvement that is going to benefit everyone, you know?
Oh, I see. So I can't rename every block. I can just rename groups and like
That's
group
right. For now.
variations. What about columns? Probably.
No, just groups.
Jeez. Okay.
Yeah, but that's coming. So this was like the first one, right? Because right now it is still like it makes sense because that is the block that we most often see in more complex documents, so that you can rename that now. But they're already experimenting. It's already part of the Gutenberg plugin, so we can expect, I think, pretty confidently that in 6.5 we'll have the
Okay.
ability to rename a lot more, if not all.
Yeah. I added a cover block and I wanted to see if like because that's the other one. I would say there's like
That's
groups,
fair.
columns, and cover that I think do they I don't know, do they actually go into the layout? There's like a layout section of blocks, right? Or am I wrong?
No,
No. Where do you put like where do they put all that stuff? Design.
it's
That's
in
the
design.
there's a
Yeah, but
design
cover
section.
is not in there.
Oh, interesting. I guess I think of it as
Cover
like a
is separate.
container. Like I think of
So
a
do
lot of these as
I.
like containers.
Yeah. I agree. Cover is definitely a container to me too. And something actually new that I discovered is that when you have an image, so do you want to add an image
Okay.
to the document?
Yeah. What like from Openverse or just a regular image?
Yeah, let's just do Openverse. That's
Yeah, you
super
don't want to
easy
see
to
what's in
grab
my
from.
media library, right?
All those experiments, my goodness.
It's
So
all right.
Brian's got the he hit the big plus icon and the corner, and then he hit media, and then there's an option for an open verse there. And when you click on that, a
Mm-hmm.
little sidebar opens up where you can search and see open verse images, which then theoretically when you click on it, it should add it to your document and then download it to your upload up to your media library so that you just have it for yourself to use.
Yeah, and
Right.
there's actually like a lot of hosts mess with this. So like if you use like GoDaddy or if you use like Jetpack or WordPress.com, they'll add like pixels or like your
Mm,
Google Photos in your Google account. Like there's all these ways where you can like pull in other media, and I think that's like a place that more attention could go. Like my daughter was setting up a blog and she wanted to put a bunch of pictures from our like iPhone library, and I'm like teaching her how to do it, but it's she's got to drag and drop. Like it was like definitely not super
yeah,
intuitive, but like I love this idea that this media panel is, I think, one day going to be much more intuitive for people to like get their media from, I don't know, from a Lightroom or something like that. All
that would be awesome. Agreed.
right, what am I searching for? Give me an image idea. Let's just see what we get from the
Mountains.
Openverse.
I'm a mountains
Mountains.
person.
Okay, you like these
And
mountains?
that second one is Lake Moraine. It's in here in Calgary, in Banff.
Okay, there. So I click it, and it actually just sits it right into my.
Yeah, wherever your cursor was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it even gives it a caption right there. And
Oh,
one of
I
the
think I
things
know
that
what
is
you're going to show us. I think I know. I think I guess. I think I figured it out. Go on.
okay, so there's a couple things, but like the first thing is because we were looking at the cover, I learned literally today, and I think this has already existed, but in the toolbar, there's that little A icon. And when you
Mm-hmm.
click that A icon, it turns into a cover block with that image.
Oh, that's what that does. Okay.
Yeah, exactly, right? I've never thought about what it does because I never needed to. And then today I clicked it and I'm like, okay, that's kind of handy. And if you have a caption, it immediately puts that caption as text in there.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And
And then I
if you
can
wanted to
like
turn it back,
put the
yeah.
caption like down low and like get rid of some of that opacity or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Ooh.
So the connection between the image block and the cover block is a lot tighter than I realized, and that's really nice. And you can turn it back
Cool.
into it by just clicking on the icon exactly and transforming it back into the image. But
It
the other
just
really
leaves
cool
this.
thing,
Okay.
yeah, the other really cool thing that happened in this one that you and I both are really excited about is the Lightbox
Oh
feature,
wait,
right?
I thought you were going to show one other feature.
Which one?
The one, this
Oh, yes,
one.
this. Yes, yes, I forgot about that.
When you
Yeah.
open the list view, I should say, I opened the list view, and in the list view where you see your image block, there's now like a little tiny thumbnail of it, and you can see what image it is. Um,
Yes. I had
and
totally
like
meant to mention that too. Sorry.
like I said, I was doing galleries. My daughter was updating her WordPress site and doing like photo galleries from Halloween and stuff, and we were like dealing with it. I think we did find a bug where like if you try to drag an image into a gallery, it kind of formats it a little funky. But we were
Mm,
using that so she could like rearrange them, put captions on them, all that sort of stuff. So
yeah. It's
super
handy, right?
handy. Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
like seeing these kinds of things, ability to rename a block, seeing a little preview of an image, like making list view more functional, more powerful. That's it's a huge productivity win, and it's a paradigm from which I would like to see more improvements. You know, how can we make not new shiny features, but how can we introduce features that increase the productivity within the block editor and make it less clunky to work with when it gets more complex, because it gets complex really fast.
Yeah, especially if you are using it like, to build a landing page, it's kind of like you're like old school making a Photoshop file with like layers and groups and
Yeah.
things like that. And you ever
Yeah.
get that file from somebody where it's like, here's my website, and they didn't group or layer anything at all or label anything, and you're just like,
Yes.
come on,
Nightmare.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so yeah, you brought up my feature I was very excited about, which is the
Yeah.
Lightbox. I'm gonna jump back over to the 6.4 uh release page, which let me close my like inspector tools. This is I'm gonna switch browser tabs to WordPress 6.4 has like a kind of a landing page, like advertising all of its features. It's actually really nice. It looks pretty cool. And they demo this Lightbox feature that came into WordPress where wherever an image is on a page, you can click on it and it expands like and actually expands from its position to fill up the
Mm.
screen. And if there's more than one, I think you can carousel through them usually, right?
No,
Maybe not. No.
not yet.
Okay. But I mean, it's just one of those features that's just so much it's like just needed to be in core, I think.
Yeah, I think there's a few other things like that too, but it's really exciting to see it. And it's like the first real like shipped version of something using the new interactive API, right? So it's really cool to see it in play. And hopefully, it's going to encourage a lot more people to play with that API and to do these kinds of really nice funky things right in core in blocks, show it's like one of those things that's really showing what can be done, and not just saying, here's a really cool API, go forth and explore. No, here's a really cool API, and here's an example of something actually super useful and super handy that you can now do with this so that you don't have to go to a third party for it.
Yeah, and I think speaking about the interactivity API, it's like this the concept is a bit like building front end JavaScript for your blocks. Like, you build your blocks in React on the back end, but when they load on the front end, they could be static, but sometimes you want that JavaScript interactivity. And
Yes.
sometimes you want it at a level where blocks are like talking to other blocks where they're aware of everything the way that you have when you're in React. And like that's, I guess, the
Hmm.
bigger picture of it. I feel like we should link to, I don't know if you saw, there was like a tweet from Seth who does crazy cool things with WordPress. And he wrote like a essay tweet explaining why you would want to use the interactivity API. And I think we should link it in the show notes because it really
Yes.
does a good job of explaining why this is going to be a really important thing. Okay, so I'm back on the back end of my WordPress website. I'm in the post editor, editing that post we were just looking at, and looking at that image block that we added directly from Openverse. We clicked an image, we added it from Openverse, and we were going to demo the fact that you can use the Lightbox. And so
Yeah.
we come over to the sidebar inspector, panel, scroll down to where you can enable the Lightbox on an image, the expand to click, and it's grayed out and it will not let us click it.
Yeah. And we
What?
were just like, why is this happening? And I thought maybe it's my local installation that's being weird, or maybe Openverse didn't download it to the media library, and then Brian tried it, and we were just like, what's going on?
Yeah, so it has a little text under it where it says expand on click, scales the image up, and can't be combined with a link, which makes sense, right? If the image is a link and you want to click on it to like go to another piece of content, it makes sense that you couldn't also make it a lightbox because you can't have two actions tied to the link.
Right.
But it's not a link.
Except, yeah, when you look at the image and the toolbar is there, when you have a link on, it actually has like a link state that lets you know, it's an indicator that this image has a link in it. But if you click on that link button even now, you can see there's no link there.
So this is what we
However,
did. So
yeah.
I'm gonna link just a little put a little hashtag in there to link. Okay, so now it's a link, and let's click out of there. Okay. Oh yeah, it is. Oh, it doesn't
Oh,
change,
it doesn't
but it
change.
says
That's
edit
odd.
link instead of insert link. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Like in a paragraph, it turns like kind of dark, right?
Yeah, so that could be also a bug that we could talk about. Maybe
I
we're gonna have
know.
to report 2 issues.
I know. I want to like, unless we're wrong about that, but I feel like when you make something a link, right? If I make something,
Yeah.
yeah, you get the unlink icon, the dash
Yes.
icon. Interesting.
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay. So let's go to our image block. I made it a link. Now let's unlink it
And
and
then
not make it a link
magically,
anymore. Our
yeah,
expand to click works.
yes. So there's something happening when something gets added through Openverse where
Mm-hmm.
it thinks it's linked, even though it's not linked.
Okay, so we should file a bug, right?
Yes, let's file a bug live right here on the recording in the Gutenberg repository because this needs to be reported.
Okay, so since I'm screen sharing, I will open up WordPress / Gutenberg. And should we look for an issue first?
Yes. So whenever you want to report a bug, someone may have, beat you to it. So you want to make sure that you search for at least the component. So in this case, like maybe Lightbox. Yeah. And you want to check for the open issues and see if something like that is already in there. So we searched and now we're looking through the list of issues and we've already hit October in terms of the Lightbox. And I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
think we've seen anything around it yet.
Nope, I don't see anything. Connect with overall linking behavior.
To ensure proper use. It could be related to that. I
Yeah,
mean,
I'll,
that might be the place to link to after you create the issue.
yeah, we could go in there and reference it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then there's a tracking issue overall for the Lightbox, which might have lists of other things they're working on for it, right?
Yeah. So tracking issues are really helpful because they do try to do their best to put all the issues, related issues in there. So you can often go in there and see what the activity is.
Okay, so we should make a new issue, right? Because we don't have
Yes.
anything open in here. V2, yeah. All right,
Yeah. Let's do it.
new
Eh,
issue,
Yeah. And when
bug
you go a new
report.
issue in the Gutenberg repository, there's a lot of different templates for different kinds of things you can report. And like Brian just said, there is a bug report template that you can use, that
All
you have to
right,
use.
okay. This is my first time opening an issue. That's interesting. Yeah, I
Mm.
guess maybe. I think I've just opened pull requests without making an issue. Uh, okay, what should we call this one?
So
Let's say light.
Lightbox, colon, since that seems to be how they're starting it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Let's say the like. What do you call this? The expand on click
toggle.
toggle control.
Yeah. Yeah.
Toggle control.
Grayed out or disabled. Yeah. Disabled on Openverse images.
Okay. So now we got to write like a little story, right, of what happened. Oh, this is
Yes.
nice. Like it's like a little form. You don't
Yeah.
see these as often.
Yeah, the form is really, really nice. So there's like an area where you put a description, then step-by-step instructions. You can add screenshots, screen recordings. So it might actually be helpful for us to take part of our recording and pop it in there afterwards, later.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, they try to make it really helpful so that you're able to help them figure out what's going on so they can help you by fixing the issue.
A few minutes later.
All right, so we filled it out and it's a really nice handy form. We even put in a recording of reproducing the bug and then how we fixed the bug so that it's really helpful for anyone who's seeing it. Things like that are really important because sometimes the people who are building this thing, they'll see things in your recordings and screenshot that you don't notice or you don't realize. And so it's really helpful to add that if you can because it's going to expedite their understanding of it.
Yeah, it's really hard to report a bug in a way that like makes it make sense and also makes sure like you can like it has to be reproducible. It has to be like clearly outlined. It's just if you don't do that, no one's going to want to help you. No one's going to want to dig into it. They're not going to know where to start. It's going to be, putting too much work on them. And it's
Yeah.
hard because sometimes you're like, well, I found a bug. Like, why do I have to do all this work? But like, if you want it fixed, imagine if that person was your client or your customer, how would you want them to give something to you? You'd want them to give you screenshots and steps of how they were produced and examples and all that sort of stuff. So it's kind of important. And it's definitely a way to, advocate for your issue more strongly by just being more communicative.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Am I ready?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's submit this issue.
Okay. All right.
And then what's great is I'm on the triage team. So what I can do is I can go in on my end, and we should be able to see this on your screen as it happens. And I should be able to tag it with the block, the core image block, so that it's helpful for anyone who's filtering by that. And I'm also going to, because I'm able to reproduce this on my end, I'm going to go ahead and comment and say, yep, there we go. So now if we go to the bottom, you'll see that I've also chimed in and said that I'm able to reproduce this using these steps on a clean install. And the more people who are able to reproduce it, the more people who bring visibility to it, the more likely it is that it's going to get fixed quicker and get the right people's eyes on it.
Yeah, and what do you think? I mean, this is sometimes where I get a little confused or not sure is the issue is with Gutenberg, right? So I file it in Gutenberg, but it's also an issue with Core. And I also didn't install the Gutenberg plugin to see if it's still an issue when running the plugin. Do you think, how do you approach that when you're doing an issue? Like, do you also install the Gutenberg plugin and like kind of see if it's fixed there? What do you like? How do you think about that?
So I sometimes do. Usually, if I find the issue and then I find that it's closed. So I guess we never did that. We didn't look at any closed issues that might have pointed this out. But sometimes I will do that and see if there's a closed issue. And if so, then I'll test it with the Gutenberg plugin. And then in that issue, I'll go in and I'll comment and say, hey, with the Gutenberg plugin, I can confirm this is fixed, but we still see this issue in this version of Core. But when you have a new release, or just in general, you are able to, and I would say that if there's a block editor issue, and it's even without the Gutenberg plugin, you go ahead and report it. If it's something that's already known or something else, it'll get closed and they'll confirm it.
Yeah.
But if not, just it's better that you do it than to not do it at all, you know?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. It's better to at least put it out there as much as you can. And if worst case somebody comes in and says, actually, we already have this here, then that's just good because all you did was raise more attention to it. And maybe that person was like, oh yeah, I kind of forgot about this and maybe I'll work on that this week. Like it's, even though your issue got closed, the fact that now you can watch this other issue and you can see the progress and you kind of brought it back up. I mean, I think it all helps to build, a larger picture. But overall, WordPress 6.4, how do we feel apart from our bug that we found? Feel like a pretty exciting step forward, right?
Yeah, I would love to see more releases like this that are about performance, about cleaning things up and innovating in a way that isn't just about the latest new shiny object, and seeing such great theme work that shows off WordPress's current abilities in a really nice, applicable fashion. So I'm really happy with this release. I think it's one of the best I've seen in a while.
Yeah. So good job, WordPress Core, and good job us reporting a bug that hopefully will get resolved.
Yes. All right. Well, I'm so happy that we got to explore this together. And this was our little break from doing a series. And next episode, we'll be back with a brand new series comparing WordPress to another kind of technology. Are you excited for that, Brian?
Yeah, I'm definitely excited. Our last series, we went through Laravel and that was really fun, but there's so many other things that I'm excited to see WordPress against another framework.
Yeah, should be cool. So I'll see you next time.
All right, see you then.
Visit viewsource.fm for the show notes. And if you're enjoying the show, we would love a review on iTunes or a comment on YouTube.